Hello again. Today is Monday, December 9th, 2024. I've just read an article about dream interpretation. Now it's a part of my another. Usually I read one to two articles. If the previous one is rather short or I'm bored, I just choose another article and read it to make it totally like 20 to 30-minute length. And today I still have some spare time before I hit the road. So I'm going to read this article and I still have some time, right? 30, 40 minutes. So I'm going to read this article while sitting on the toilet. This article is from Pack Macmillan. Curious about tarot cards? Here's everything you need to know. From how to get started to which tarot deck to buy. Jen Cohen and Fiona Lansveld, tarot readers and authors of Wild Card, Let the Tarot Tell Your Story. Share everything you need to know about the tarot. By Jen Coney and Fiona Lansveld. This article was written on April 28th, 2024, 10 minutes to read, or just 10-minute read. Jen Coney and Fiona Lansfeld discovered a shared love of tarot in their 20s. Allured by its rich visual symbolism, they quickly became immersed in the stories the tarot contains and the ways in which those stories can help people make sense of the full range of human experience. And they are not alone. In 2018, Fiona told The Guardian, "There's a real sense of community in using it, particularly among younger women. People think it's about predicting the future, but it isn't. It's about the present, and it can be very empowering. Tarot allows you to consider a problem, give a voice to it, work it through, and see where the blocks might be. It can give voice to problems or fears. It can give voice, right? It can give voice to problems or fears. That's good expression, right? It can give voice to problems or fears. Fast forward 4 years, and our collective interest in tarot has only grown. While some tarot card readers might be looking for certainty in uncertain times, and others looking for new ways to self reflect, either way, tarot cards have become a tool for our time. Fast forward 4 years. Fast forward 4 years, and our collective interest in tarot has only grown. Here, Fiona and Jen, now authors of their own guide to the cards, Wild Card, Let the Tarot Tell Your Story, share all there is to know about the art, from how to get started reading tarot cards to which deck to buy. So there are several decks. Who can read tarot cards? We made our first foray into tarot several years ago now. We had no idea, like 5 years ago or four. We had no idea what learning the tarot would be for us. A party trick, a new hobby, a fun story to tell our friends, something more. All we knew was that we were fascinated by the idea of these beautifully illustrated cards and their symbolism. We wanted to know how they worked and if we could use them too. Hi, I'm back home from work, and I'm going to read the rest of the story. After this, I'm going to study some electrical engineering. One of the most common questions we get asked is, how do you become a tarot reader? Over time, we've realized that many people ask us this because they are worried that unless you have some sort of occult pedigree, you are not going to get very far with it. You are not That's another good cliche. You are not going to get very far with it. You are not going to get very far with it. So, as two entirely non psychic tarot readers who came to their practice in our late 20s, allow us to be the first to tell you that this is nonsense. The tarot is for everyone, and anyone can learn to read it. It's for you too, if you want it to be. As we've discovered in our own journey with tarot, there is no one type of a person who reads their cards and comes for readings, right? Let me go back and check out the exact pronunciation, right? Tarot. I thought tarot, right? Right, tarot. T is silent, man. Tarot. The tarot is for everyone, and anyone can learn to read it. It's for you too, if you want it to be. As we've discovered in our own journey with the tarot, there's no one type of person who reads the cards and comes for readings. People of all ages, from all walks of life, and with all professional backgrounds, have been known to dabble with a deck. Dabble with a deck, right? Dabble with a deck. For some, reading tarot intersects with other practices, spellcraft, astrology, crystal work, divination. But for many others, it doesn't. In fact, the way that people use the deck is entirely personal. You are allowed, no encouraged, to find your own relationship with the cards on your own terms. Dabble with the deck, right? Dabble. You cannot get very far with it. 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 Dabble with a deck. Dabble, dabble, dabble with a deck. If you are curious about whether tarot is real, for us, the magic of the tarot is less about fortune telling and more about stories. Our practice is entirely secular. We don't offer readings that have any kind of psychic element to them. We don't believe that the tarot can tell you exactly what to do. And more importantly, we think it is a good thing. What we've come to love about the tarot is the narrative power of the cards. The way that their symbolism invites questions and self-reflection, and so empowers you to make your own decisions about the direction you want your future to take. The interplay between different cards can offer up new perspectives, challenge old and unhelpful ways of thinking, or even just force you to acknowledge things that you've been hiding from yourself, thanks to tarot. It doesn't mean the cards aren't helpful when it comes to making decisions or thinking about the path ahead, but it does mean that the way they help isn't quite what popular culture has led us to expect. How do tarot cards work? When you lay out all of the cards in a tarot deck, you'll find all of the life hidden within them. The tarot is made up of two sections called the arcanas. The word means secrets. There's the major arcana, which contains 22 cards, and the minor arcana, which are arcana, right? Arcana or arcana. Arcana, which contains 56. So total 78, I think. Within the minors, you'll find four suits, just as you would in a regular pack of playing cards, but with the difference that each suit is associated with a different element and aspect of the self. What? Within the minors, you find four suits. Four suits, right? Four suits. So 56 is divided by 4 uh, means 16, right? 1, 4, 14. So one suit is a 14 cards, I think. Within the minors, you find four suits, just as you would in a regular pack of playing cards, but with the difference that each suit is associated with a different element and aspect of the self. The suits are the cups, the pentacles, the swords, and the wands. The cups, associated with water and the emotional self. The pentacles, linked to earth and the physical self. Pentacles, 5 tentacles, right? The swords, the cards of air, which are all about the mind. And the wands, the suit of fire, which are about how you apply your energy. Meanwhile, the journey of the major cards contains seismic shifts in life, telling a dramatic story of beginnings and endings, discoveries and losses, stillness and growth. It is often the major arcana cards that newcomers to Tarot recognize. The Hanged Man, for example, or the Lovers. And when you combine all of these different cards, you've got all of the ingredients for 1,000 unique narratives. 1,000 unique narratives. Yeah, narrative is quite important, right? The narrative. Not a story, but kind of a story bones of the story, right? Narrative. I don't like your narrative. Means I don't like your attitude. I don't like the way you are saying. Narratives. You've got all of the ingredients for 1,000 unique narratives. What to look for in a tarot deck? If you are looking to take that leap into tarot, you might be wondering what to do first. We would highly recommend you start by buying a tarot deck. Yes, you can buy your own, and also it can definitely be secondhand. There are a lot of decks out there, so choosing yours can be more easily said than done. Really, there are a lot of decks. Can be more easily said than done. The earliest tarot decks date back to the 15th century, which means there has been plenty of time for innovation, and the card designs have passed through thousands of hands and pen brushes. The closest thing that exists to a standard tarot deck is the Rider-Waite or Rider-Waite-Smith, as we prefer to call it. To credit its illustrator, Pamela Coleman Smith, the deck actually dates from the turn of the 20th century, so it's by no means the original, but it's the one on which the vast majority of other deck designs and structures are now based. It's also easy to get hold of and among the more affordable options, so it can be a good starter deck, right? Starter deck is Rider-Waite or Rider-Waite-Smith. The Rider-Waite-Smith isn't the only option though. There's no limit to how many decks of cards you can have. Some people prefer just to own one. Some people have a whole shelf full. The most important thing is to find something that speaks to you, whether that's in terms of its design, its concept, or its creator. There are many decks by BIPOC and queer creators, for example, which reimagine the largely cis, heteronormative, and white imagery of the writer Wade Smith. If you are getting started, though, it's definitely worth seeking out a deck which follows the most common structure, that is, 78 fully illustrated cards. If something is listed as an oracle deck, there's a no, because that's not raw, no matter how pretty it is. Simply, if you see the words pip deck, save it for later. That is a tarot deck, but it's one where 56 of the 78 cards aren't illustrated, and therefore really, really hard to learn from. 78 fully illustrated cards. Oracle deck, right? How to read with the tarot cards. Readings can be performed for oneself or for others, and they all follow a similar format. The reader shuffles and fans out the deck face down, and then invites the querent, that's the person being read for. It means the one who seeks, querent, question, right? Probably they share the same etymology, same root of words. Querent, to pull a series of cards. The cards are laid out on a flat surface in a specific pattern known as a spread. Each position in the pattern has a different significance, and the meaning of the card has to be read through that lens. For example, you might pull a card to signify your past, or something that's holding you back, or a hidden strength. The reader should take the lead in interpreting the cards, building a narrative from the symbols in front of them. But many also invite the querent to participate, asking questions and inviting them to share their reactions to the images in front of them. Almost needless to say, tarot readings are very intimate and very personal. The most important thing to remember is that a reading is always about the querent, not the tarot reader. This is not a time for showboating, right? Showboating, right? Showboat. You show your strength. You show your competency to a querent. That's not the case, man. Not showboating. I think I've never heard of showboating before. So let's find out what is a showboating, even though I just shut off the internet, right? Showboating. Probably it says no. Yeah. Showboating. Oh, okay. So I downloaded the entire dictionary onto my phone. A showboat or showboat was a floating theater that traveled along the waterways of the United States, especially along the Mississippi, Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and Ohio rivers to bring culture and entertainment to the river frontiers. This special type of river boat was designed to carry passengers rather than cargo, and they had to be pushed by a small pusher or towboat attached to it. Showboats were rarely steam powered because the steam engine had to be placed right in the auditorium for logistical reasons, therefore making it difficult to have a large theater. Showboat. It makes sense. This is not a time for showboating. If you are reading for someone else, you are in a position of trust. They might share things with you that they've not told other people. or that they've they've not even realized about themselves before. Sometimes it can be a cathartic experience. Sometimes it can be absolutely hilarious, and sometimes baffling. If you are curious to learn Tarot, we'd always recommend starting out by reading for yourself or for someone who you know well, and only graduating to readings for strangers once you are steady on your cartomancy feet. Hmm, cartomancy, right? Reading ca- carto means usually map, right? Cartomancy. So I guess like knowing your territory. Cartomanto. Carto cartomancy, right? Cartomancy. Divination, practice of fortune telling the future using cards. Divination.
Cartomancy.
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 Cartomancy. Cartomancy. Cartomancy is a fortune telling or divination using a deck of cards. Divination. They've heard of it before. Divine, right? Divination. Forms of cartomancy. Cartomancy appeared soon after playing cards were introduced into Europe in the 14th century. Cartomancy. Cartomancers. Card readers, or simply readers. Cartomancers. Cartomancy. Divination. Divination. Cartomancy. Got it. So where were we, man? Right. Of course, before giving readings, you will need, and this is no small task, to have learned the cards. Sorry, no shortcuts. Sorry, no shortcuts. This is no small task. This is no small task. This is no small task. Sorry, no shortcuts. Sorry, no shortcuts. This is no small task. This is no small task. Sorry, no shortcuts. Many find that a guidebook is the best place to start. It allows you to learn at your own pace and is a bit less of commitment than weeks and weeks of tuition. A good guide to the tarot will help you to become familiar with the overall shape of the deck, the symbols associated with each of the cards, and the commonly held meanings, as well as providing practical advice and tips on spreads, learning techniques, and reading etiquette. There are quite a few excellent books out there, but for the purposes of this article, may we humbly draw your attention to this one, right? There are quite a few excellent books out there. There are quite a few good. Yeah, this is cliche, man. There are quite a few excellent books out there. There are quite a few good, excellent books. Quite a few excellent books out there. There are quite a few excellent books out there. Telling your own stories with tarot cards. Lastly, but by no means least, but not the least. Usually we say not the least, but by no means least. Lastly, but by no means least, but by no means least, learning tarot means learning how to apply your own unique experiences and perspectives to each of the cards. You will learn that the death card connotes change and endings. But what does that bring up for you personally? If you draw the hermit, ask yourself how you've used and benefited from periods of solitude. Over time, you will begin to see the cards everywhere, in day to day moments, in fragments of poetry or song, in characters from Netflix series. You might find that some cards become imbued with a specific meaning that feels unique to you. That's not wrong. In fact, it's the lifeblood of this ancient practice. The Torah survives because it stays relevant for each new generation. The images on the cards are symbols, not signposts. They can never be pinned down or fixed or owned. Symbols, not signposts. They can never be pinned down or fixed or owned. They are big enough to carry every life, every experience, and every short story within them. So, more than anything, when you learn and read the cards, don't be afraid to make them your own and share what you find there. Wild card. Let the Torah tell you a story. Jen Coy, Fiona Lansfield. At its heart, the Torah is a storytelling device, a deck of symbols and narratives that can spark conversations, inspire ideas, and reveal new perspectives. And you don't need to be psychic to use it. It is a practice that is open to everyone. In this beautifully illustrated guide, Torah readers Jen Coney and Fiona Lansfeld introduce each of the cards, drawing on literature, pop culture, and their own experiences, and encourage you to add your voice to this centuries old tradition. Centuries old, right? Centuries old tradition. Whether you are learning to read for yourself and others, refreshing your knowledge, or just curious, Wildcard will show you how the Torah can add a little bit of magic to your life. Ready for your next read? Sign up to the Best of Penn Macmillan newsletter to discover the best of our books, events, and special offers. Contact email. I subscribe to the Best of Penn Macmillan newsletter. Subscribe. You must be over 18 to sign up to this newsletter. Read our privacy notice to find out how we hold and use your personal information. Hold, right? We hold and use your personal information. You can unsubscribe at any time. You may also like the best self-care and self-help books to read now. 5 female authors whose real lives are as fascinating as their fiction. Astro poets, love signs, the best astrology books. Ready for your next read? Yes. Penn Macmillan Resources International Imprints. So this was a rather lengthy article, but there are several cliches or expressions that I decided to remember. One is lastly, but by no means least. This is no small task. This is no small task. You own it. Divination, cartomancy, cartomancy, right? Cartomancer. Divination, tarot card. What else? What else? Curious about tarot cards, right? So, friends party trick. Dabble with it, right? Dabble with it. Astrology, spellcraft, crystal work. Dabble with it. Dabble with it. All works of life. Magic to you, self-reflection. Tarot. There's the major arcana. So it's 78 cards, right? Major arcana, minor arcana. Looking to take the leap into tarot, there's a deck. Rider Waite Smith. Yeah, creator, illustrate cards, pick deck, illustrate oracle. There's no time for showboating. 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 Pull a card. You are in a position of trust. You are in a position of trust. Cathartic experience. Cathartic experience. A cathartic experience. There's no small talk. Sorry, no shortcuts. Sorry, no shortcuts. Sorry, no shortcuts. Sorry, no shortcuts. No shortcuts. Sorry, no shortcuts. No shortcuts. Attention to this wild card. Tarot cards are cartomancy. Cartomancy. Over time, centuries old, 14th century, centuries old, pinned down. They can never be pinned down. They can never be pinned. At its heart, at its heart, at its heart, at its heart, the tarot is a storytelling device, a deck of symbols and narratives that can spark conversations, inspire ideas, and reveal new perspectives. At its heart, the tarot is a storytelling device. At its heart, the tarot is a storytelling device. At its heart, the tarot is a storytelling device. Wild card. Thanks for listening. Take care and have a wonderful tarot card evening. Bye-bye.